Thank you, everybody, for attending my presentation today. My name is Doug Mihalow. I'm a Senior Director of Credit and Fraud Risk Management for Best Egg and American FinTech. The title of my presentation today is The Full Spectrum Fight Against Fraud. So a little bit about me. I'm an employee here at Best Egg. I've been here for, this will be my 10th year. In addition, I've got a large banking background in the United States between card and mortgage. The company I work for is a business-to-consumer lending platform. We offer personal loan products, we offer a credit card product, and we offer a financial health product to the American consumer. When we're talking about the full spectrum fight against fraud, this is a total approach to solve the problem. And there are many different elements to combine. The first element we'll talk about today is bringing down the walls. We're on that in a minute. And then the rest of the presentation will talk about building up the walls that you need to wage the total fight against fraud. This includes defining what fraud is, what type of data you need to ingest, the strategy behind the entire operation, operations, data science, cyber risk, technology, and forms. All of these elements are vital if you're going to fight fraud in a full spectrum approach. So bringing down the walls, what I mean by this is working together without the ego. The team really needs to check their ego at the door and go all in to fight the problem. So the way to do that is by encouraging good behaviors. So the first one is to create collaboratively owned goals. So if everyone's incented towards the same outcome, that will help bring people together to solve the problem together. At Best Egg, we have one fraud goal for the personal loan products. We have one overall fraud goal for the credit card product. As a result, everyone can rally, no matter what area they're from, they can rally around those goals to do what needs to be done. Second, you need to track progress towards the collaboratively owned goals. If the teams know where they're going and they can understand where they're missing or where they're succeeding, it allows conversations to occur around making adjustments. Third, building the team. This is more than just hiring. You really want to hire people that like working together. You want to hire people who are passionate about fighting fraud, and that's generally not a problem when it comes to fraud. We tend to be passionate about what we believe in here. You want to hire people who are inquisitive and keep asking the question why, because that's how we uncover what's going on and we can figure out where to go next. Number four, meet regularly to discuss the results and plan the next moves. So we do this once a week. Every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard, our fraud fighting team gets together, and it's everybody. It's tech, ops, credit strategy, data science, cyber risk security, all meet together. And we review the results. We talk about what's working and what's not. We talk about what's coming. If we need to make adjustments, we discuss those in the room, and then we get to work the rest of the week. And we don't just meet once a week. We meet constantly. We use Slack internally to encourage real-time communication between the teams. It helps bring us together. As a remote-first company, Slack really helps us operate well that way. The last one is giving the teams the tools to get the job done. Look, if there's a fraud attack with losses, you want to get in front of that as fast as possible. So making sure the teams have the right tools they need to do their job is vital. And that leads into the next part of the presentation. So now we're going to talk about building up the walls. So what I don't want to get into with this topic of defining fraud is providing a definition of fraud, because I guarantee you, if we got 10 organizations together to ask, what is your definition of fraud? You might get 10 different answers. I don't want to get into that debate today. I want to talk about overall some things to consider. So when you're defining fraud, the first thing you want to do in a financial services company like I'm in is first pay default does not equal fraud. The first pay default, the way we define that here is we originate the accounts, and the very first payment that comes due is not made by the customer. It could be a signal that you've booked a fraudster. It could be a signal that it is a consumer that's just forgetful. Sometimes people forget to pay the bill. Could be a problem with the bank, or it could be a credit risk situation that's out there that's developing, and this person should not have gotten those funds to begin with. Need to figure out which one of those it is, because If you're not defining fraud versus accidental problem versus this is a credit risk problem appropriately, your firm is going to be assigning the wrong type of resources to solve the problem. The second recommendation I've got for you today is regular reviews to produce a fraud tag. You need a fraud tag. You really do. You need that dependent variable out there for reporting to understand how much you're losing to fraud or how much fraud you're finding and avoiding to meet the goal hurdles that you've set for your organization. You need that dependent variable of a fraud tag to analyze attack vectors, to design defenses. Your data science group needs a bad tag to turn into a dependent variable to build models, be they logistic regression or one of the machine learning algorithm variants out there. It doesn't matter. You need to have a bad tag. And the last one to get started, if you don't have a bad tag for fraud and you're wondering which direction to go, third-party vendors can really help in this regard. A lot of third-party vendors provide scoring documentation, and they binned their off-the-shelf fraud score products to help you, the potential client, understand just how effective the score is at different scoring ranges. Talk to your vendors. Ask them, hey, but beyond which point is your score just almost perfectly accurate? And everyone will advise you appropriately that, hey, it's your own level of risk management tolerance for your company, but here's what we advise. Collect 5 or 6 of those pieces of advice. Assess those scores with a retro test and understand, hey, if I just defined this as my basic fraud definition to get started, it gives you a baseline until you can start gathering data and have those discussions internally. Second part about building up the walls is data. So when you're investigating data sources, you want to bear in mind there's 2 types of data sources. The first one is off-us data, so also referred to as third-party vendors. You're buying the expertise. You're buying the expertise in many different forms. So for instance, identity fraud scoring and attribution is a very common form of data to buy. We buy several of those products here at Best Egg. Dark web scoring and attribution. This is more of a recent product offering that I've been seeing. There's a traditionally cyber risk prevention provider that's migrating into identity fraud scoring and attribution. They have a very interesting platform. There's another firm that we're doing a retro test with right now, and they came into existence about a year ago, and they've got a very solid set of algorithms to define different types of fraud. They safely acquire the dark web data, marry that to traditional data, and they have impactful products. These are interesting data sources to go review, see if they work for you. Bank account data. We direct deposit our loan proceed funds directly into bank accounts. So getting data on what is that bank account? Who is the identity that's on that bank account? How long has that bank account been around? That's valuable. And there's bank aggregation widget products out there or passive API data store products out there that can help you with that. The email address, understanding particulars about the email address's creation date and usage come from many different vendors out there. There's lots of good options. Phone number. So at Best Egg, if we cannot systemically validate that phone number ties to that identity, that population has at least a 50% unit fraud rate. And given that we've got 10 years of data, I feel confident sharing that fact with you today. Phone number for unsecured personal consumer loans in the United States is a great signal against fraud, something to consider. Address verification, understanding the velocity of the identity tied to the address that's being provided on the application, that's being changed to on the credit card account. You can identify all kinds of risks with that. Device. I know this is all the rage several years ago, but device risk management still has its place in your defenses out there. If you want to be full spectrum, understanding trends at the device level with operating system, orientation of the device, etc., can be helpful. Geolocation and IP address. Understanding where on the planet the applicant is applying from. Understanding the risks of the IP address. Is it a known IP address? Is it a common IP address? Are you seeing tons of traffic from a particular IP address? All of these are valuable signals. Application velocity. If there is a concerted attack to submit lots of applications to your application funnel, Application velocity is a great tool to understand where the attack vector is at, so you can start setting up defenses and work with your cyber risk partners to shut that down. Biometrics. This includes validating ID cards that are government issued, liveness testing, etc. These are valuable metrics. And then the last was optical character recognition vendors. This gives a very different dimension to the fight against fraud, getting into the PDF document particulars that are submitted, analyzing bank statement behaviors, understanding what the pay documents for a pay stub or a US tax return are telling you. Very valuable signals. The last type of data I'll talk about is on-us data. So use your own data stores. Is this a known identity to you and your company for the past 4 years that hasn't been paying the bills very, very well, and now they want more credit from you? Well, if it's submitted, they've been paying the bills pretty well for 4 years, they want more credit from you, fraud risk is probably lower. Synthetic identity, of course, is always a risk, depending on the type of product we're talking about. But building a social network analysis graph on known fraudsters and marketing channel analytics, payment histories, anomaly detection on baseline account behaviors, leverage your own data. There's a gold mine worth of value there. All you have to do is dig in, use your bad tag that we talked about previously, and uncover the value. Right. Next part of building up the walls is the overall strategy. You need a strategy that can put everything together. And a good strategist qualities include several things. Number one is just listening. The good strategist will engage their business partners. They'll understand their points of view. They'll seek out their business partners and get help. A good strategist can't solve the problem by themselves. They're looking to work with their wider community inside the company and outside, as we'll get into later here, to figure out what's the right direction to go. And if another thing a strategist will do is, if they're not quite certain if there's one direction to go, try a few different things at the same time. There's nothing wrong with A/B testing when you're trying to solve a problem, reading the results as rapidly as you can, and then figuring out your winning approach, or gathering the data to know it's not working and then come up with something else. Number two is listen to the feedback. Ask for the community's ideas. Ask for what's not going well. So my area runs strategy for the company for fraud. If we are implementing a strategy that's not particularly effective, our feedback loop is operations. Our second feedback loop is the customer, asking, why do I have to take these extra steps? What's going on? I don't understand things. We gather that feedback through data, live interviews, talking to our operations agent floor, getting the feedback from the management staff. It helps us adjust. Number three is always be learning. You should never, ever stop learning. Meet new third-party data vendors. Ask them what's hot in the fraud arena right now. You'd be surprised how much you learn. Fourth is, listen to those fraud podcasts. There's some good ones out there. Go find them. I'm sure at this conference, several will be very well represented. And the last one is subscribe to those fraud newsletters. There's some very good ones out there again. Not all the material is always relevant to your particular situation, but you never know what you're going to learn, and never know what kind of new and emerging trend you're going to learn about from getting this type of news. Next one in building up the walls is your operations area. Having an elite operations group solves lots of problems. I'm very fortunate to work with an elite operations group here at Best Egg. There are several components to having an elite operations group. The number one thing is it all starts with solid people management. People leave managers, they don't leave companies. So hiring good manager, hire those good managers, turnover isn't a problem, they'll stay. Number two is hire great agents. Well, if you're already hiring great managers, they're going to know what a great agent looks like, and they'll take care of that. Number three is all about reporting. There's reporting at the start of the day, throughout the day, and to end the day. Yes, you're right, there's more reporting. You have to know what's happening in your operations area. You have to know where your volumes are at, what are your inflows, what's going out, what are the emerging trends. Having good live reporting at your fingertips, so that way managers can manage their teams, senior managers can direct the entire floor, they can have discussions with strategy on what's working, what's not. They can prove to data science whether their idea to build this new type of anti-fraud product is a good idea. Reporting is critical. Next one is calibration. Hey, we need to ensure that agents can communicate what they're seeing in real time with one another. And the way we do that here at Best Egg is we have a special secure Slack channel where the agents talk about trends that they're seeing, asking their friends about, friends at work, of course, is this fraud or not? This allows managers to watch, understand the conversations, and start to put things together as far as overall trends are being concerned. And then that comes back to the strategy group, data science group, technology group, etc. So we can talk and make adjustments. Number 5, hey, remote can work. There's a raging debate right now. Should everybody be back in an office? Should everybody do remote work? Should there be a hybrid approach? I'm not going to try and solve that here today. What I'll tell you is at Best Egg, we've proven remote can work. We are a remote first company. We do have a headquarters building. I'm speaking to you from it right now. It's great to have a home base, to have larger meetings and to meet my colleagues face to face, but we effectively ran the company well and grew it very well for 2 years, during COVID and right after COVID. So remote can work if it's done right. Happy to talk more offline about that. Next one, case management systems are vital for operations to move quickly and accurately. Having a good case management system to present relevant data to the agents, they can perform their investigations, track progress against investigations, and then properly notate and highlight to the wider business, this is a confirmed fraud or not. Got to have a good case management system. And the last one, what is fraud? Hey, agents are a valuable source of intel because they're going to teach the organization this application is fraud and this one is not. And that's very vital information. It's necessary to build models, strategies, understand the impact of tools, how effective your tools are. It's a great addition. Next one in building up the walls is your data science group. A good model should power a good strategy. The better the model, the better the strategy that can be built, as long as the tag's bad definition is accurate. Here again, operations proving it's huge value to the entire organization. You've got to have an elite operations group to help tag the frauds. So some things you consider for your data science teams. Number 1, you want to embed your data scientist within the fraud fighting team. Don't relegate your modeler to a cubicle and don't talk to them ever again. Seek them out, include them in what's going on, include them in that weekly update, teach them about fraud, have them sit with operations agents, your best ones, so that way the data scientists can see firsthand, what is the problem? What do the patterns look like? How do your agents think about fraud? These are all valuable facts that will help the data scientist understand the problem, and then they can go get creative with the data. And they'll have good ideas on feature development that need to be done. And it'll help them research which type of model will be best applied against the problems we're facing. So embed your data scientists, reach out to them. Number 2 is stock the data lake. Hey, when you're fishing for the right answer, the data science group will truly benefit from having lots of good ingredients in the lake. We at Best Egg do have a lot of replication in our vendors. So the reason for that is if one vendor, their tool becomes weak at identifying a type of fraud, the theory, and we've proven it over the years, is, well, the other vendor's scoring algorithm protects us, or this one over here protects us, or this particular type of data tool picks up the risk and covers us there. So number 3 is the right tools. You want to empower your data science group by having the right model development and deployment tools available. Allow them the freedom to create, have good product suites available for them to create. What is their coding language of choice? Try and accommodate that. And the other key that we learned over the years is we promote our models directly into production. Now there's safety and controls around that, so nobody can just randomly promote a new model to production to see what happens. But by being able to promote directly from data scientist into production with appropriate safety reviews, of course, you're going to eliminate that interpretation and risk that comes with recoding a model. The last one is a social network analysis. Really does get results. So we have an entire fraud graphing tool here that we use our known applicant pool. We understand which ones are identified as fraud over the years. We built the linkage, it powers a model, it's ingested into the strategy and provides valuable routing guidance on what should be reviewed by an agent and what should not. Definitely develop the technology. There's many different providers out there, many different tech stacks that offer solutions. Next one is cyber risk. So best way to cure the fraud problem is before the problem can start. So if you can stop the fraudster from even coming in your doors and submitting an application fully, that's key in the fight against fraud. And bringing your cyber risk specialist into your fraud fighting team, into those weekly updates is vital. So Couple things though on that. Number one, I talked about data lake and having lots of tools available for your data scientists. But number one, if the office data is awesome, that's great, but it has to be safe. Have your cyber risk specialist assess all of your third-party vendors, especially the ones with which you're having to share sensitive information, such as name, address, United States Social Security number, date of birth, etc. The more sensitive the data, the more rigor that should be applied on a more regular cadence on those third-party data vendors. You need to be able to rely on these good tools. If your cyber risk area is reviewing those vendors for risk, making sure they're operating above board and their controls are sound, it'll only enable your full spectrum fight against fraud to succeed. Second one is educate the employee base. You need to teach your employee base about phishing attacks. It is not an uncommon occurrence here to get a notification from our Chief Information Security Officer of there's a phishing attack against the company right now. This is what it looks like, and this is the type of email you'll see. And they've set up an entire reporting tool on our email system that if we believe something to be phishing, we literally push one button, fill out a tiny report, that email is removed and sanitized and put in a safe spot for analysis by cyber risk, and it keeps us safe. But furthermore, educating the employee base on what is malware, what is ransomware, what are things you should not do if you see emails you don't recognize with executable files attached or nefarious looking PDFs. You get emails from people asking you to take directions to execute a report quickly that are on senior management. It seems odd. If you educate your employee base on these negative behaviors, it can help with the full spectrum fight against fraud. Number three is stopping the bots. You need a dynamic software solution to thwart organized bot activity, or they will attempt an attack en masse to try and get funded as many loans and credit card accounts, etc., whatever you have as they can. The last one is bringing machine learning to bear, like pattern analysis, biometric behavioral tools, geolocation data, etc. These can all be combined very creatively to build a modeled solution that can be very efficient and effective. This is where data science is always at the table and providing their value. Teach the data scientists the cyber risk tools that are available, but the data scientists get creative with solutions, see where you get. Next one in building up the walls is technology. So you can have the best operations group in human history. You can have the most elite data scientist. You can have the best office data, the craftiest strategist, and the most clever, honest data. But if you can't bring it all to bear against the problem through technology, you literally have nothing. So your tech stack is crucial to your success in the full spectrum fight against fraud. So number one, if your tech stack can't do it all in-house, get some help. There's lots of good platforms out there that combine passive API calls, aggregated type solutions that allow customer permission data to flow into your company's walls, model deployment, case management, etc. There are all-in-one solutions that help you, the client, configure using lots of good tools that aren't necessarily from that provider, good third-party hookups that can enable you to build a solution and then tie that into your larger tech stack. So if your technology group can't build you the solution from the ground up, go rent it. These things work well. And number two is, can you change it? Hey, look, you can have a tech stack and it can be solving the problem today, but I can tell you, we make many, many changes to our fraud strategy throughout the year. We do redevelop our model from time to time to ensure it's high performing and effective. Your tech stack needs to evolve over time as well. And if your tech stack can keep up with the rate of change that's required, that's positive. If it's not, then that needs to be reevaluated, understand where the pain points are and figure out, do we have the right tech stack or do we need to do something different? The third one is, you might be able to change your tech stack and react to fraud concerns, but can you change it quickly? So if it takes a quarter to make a technology change, the cost of fraud losses could be pretty big. And sometimes you are literally trying to shut down an emergency problem that is attacking your defenses and they're getting through. Making changes in an hour, it's not just a luxury, it's a must-have in this real-time application environment. You need to be able to respond within an hour to make a change, to attack the problem at its source and shut it down. So your tech stack needs to be nimble. Next one in building up the walls is forums. Hey, fraud fighters, we like to talk shop. seek them out, attend conferences, talk to the panelists afterwards. Ask questions that are on your mind at these conferences. And there's online forums too. Ask questions there, write them up. There's a Q&A section for a reason after all of these things, and they want to talk to you. Join an industry consortium or a roundtable gathering. We belong to a couple here at Best Egg, and they provide valuable intelligence from our peers in the fraud fighting community amongst banks, US fintechs, and credit unions. And we share tech tips and techniques and trends with each other. Hey, leverage your office data providers as unofficial forums too. Have a quarterly check-in with your largest product sales team. Ask them to bring their fraud nerd along. They've always got a fraud nerd, right? That expert that's taught to do basically your job. Ask them to come along the next time you check the sales person. Ask them what's hot, what's going on, what are you working on, what are you developing, what are the threats you're seeing and hearing about out there from your wider client base. So these are valuable hints so that way you can get ready for the next thing that hasn't hit you yet. And then my final thoughts for today. So when you're putting it all together, please remember, working together is key. You want to hire the right people and treat them well. You want to check the ego at the door so we can focus on the problem at hand. You want to keep experimenting with data. Fraudsters are creative. We need to be creative too. So keep searching for new data. Keep asking questions. If things don't seem right, keep asking questions until you get to the problem source. And the last one is debate, define, and refine your definition of fraud. So good luck in your full spectrum fight against fraud. If I can help you in any way, my details are here. Thank you very much for attending.